Principal secretaries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be with you today for this water panel. I'm Guillaum Polgue from the French Development Agency, Program Officer for Water and Sanitation sector. I've worked in Kenya for 2 years and deal mostly with 4 big infrastructure projects in Mombasa, Nairobi and Kisumu. I would say that I represent the European side of the moderator, when John Wendwa, present here, is actually the Kenyan face. He is the Director for Public Affairs, Communication and Sustainability for Coca-Cola. So you're going to ask me, why Coca-Cola when we speak about water? Because heavy industries obviously must deal with water matters, either for supply or sanitation. As an example, Coca-Cola invested $2 million USD last year in upgrades the wastewater treatment plant in Kisumu, after the company adopted an international environment management system standard. So, this panel will give us the opportunity to speak about the sector specificities in Kenya with a wide range of stakeholders. So we were supposed to have the PS from the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. It's not yet arrived, but we have Marie Wainana, who is there, engineer from the Ministry, Director of Water and Sanitation Development. But she will introduce herself in a few minutes. So it's a pleasure to welcome her, and I'm sure that she's going to give us crucial insight on the main directions that the water sector is currently heading. It is also, I am also to present the different company we are going to discuss with. So we have a very large number of private companies specialized in water sectors. 5 companies who are, that are quite different and enable the representation of the large spectrum of players in the sector. So we have Alma Water Solution, a Spanish company developing unconventional water solution for both municipal and industrial sector. We have Holy, that comes from Portugal, as the largest citron producer in Southern Europe, and provides sanitary system in Kenya. Then CityTap, a French company that provides technological and financial smart meter solutions. After that, we have Boreal, a German company specialized on renewable energy solution for water treatment facilities. And last but not least, Irrite Group, established in Italy, is among the world leaders in precision irrigation. Irrite's mission is to improve the efficiency of irrigation in agriculture and gardening, reducing the environmental impact. I think that it is very interesting that we have quite a well-balanced panel with many European countries represented. Spain, Portugal, Italy, France, and Germany. So they are mostly from the southern side of Europe, as they are probably more used with the sunny weather. So very pleased to come to Kenya. It also showcases the variety of the competencies available and the fact that the European team is aware of the country dynamism in Kenya and is very willing to reinforce its mobilization on the water sector. But of course I will let them introduce themselves in a few minutes. Before I get to the heart of the matter, I've got to draw a very brief presentation of the water context in Kenya. Coming from Europe, people are not necessarily, like I was 2 years ago, people are not necessarily aware of the water problem of Kenya. In their imagination, the drought subject affects mostly countries in the northern Kenya, like Somalia or Ethiopia. Therefore, it is key to remind that water resources is very scarce in Kenya. There is still a great need for improvement in water distribution to enhance population way of life and cope with rapid urbanization. At the same time, due to water scarcity, it is paramount to increase the sustainable management of this resource, both in rural areas and cities. So one must also be aware that Azar constitutes approximately 80% of Kenya's land mass and are home to about 20% of Kenyan population. On top of that, We know that the sector is a low-margin business by regulation, leading to difficulty to ensure good level of operation and maintenance. I think that it's quite an average here in East Africa. Consequently, the means and staff are limited, entailing a level of efficiency that could be improved. Then something else that is quite important is level of non-running water. The national average is around 45% according to WASREB, the regulator. Consequently, lowering this rate is part of the solution. But we will elaborate more on that later, I guess, with our panelists. Therefore, as the sector is not financially balanced, what kind of level could be activated as solution to pave the way for lower non-running water? I think that there are technical solutions with innovation, but also financial with PPP or legal aspects like tariff to strengthen the capacities of utilities or water work development agency.
And the water that we had, therefore, is diminished. So we move from a context where water was available and you didn't think about the quality because it was almost guaranteed, to the situation today, water is not available and the quality is questionable. So more people today are having to, seek manufactured water, which is a cost to them, so there's a burden on people. And two, always have to check the quality of water. It's sometimes a factor if you're not buying from reputable farms. But also on the other hand, there's a lot of damage that has gone to the water towers, whether it's human settlement or human interference that then interferes with how much water is ordinarily generated through nature. Because of the strain on municipal or urban or collective water supply, we are seeing households and companies going more and more to own water, which is largely borehole water. But not everybody has that luxury. Not everybody can afford to seek a borehole. Not everybody can afford to, even as a community, seek a borehole. So the issue of water, and here it's about quantity and quality, is dire, even if we discount the impact of climate change. Is availability because of interfering with the water towers, availability because of increased development is reaching a critical point where action by private sector and action by government needs to happen and happen soon. But I need to give a little bit of a context from a Coca-Cola point of view because I work for Coca-Cola. And we are not just consumers of water, we are major investors in water. And it's, first of all, providing water, affordable water to people, drinking water specifically, but a lot of investment that we've done in processing post-manufactured water. So we've invested, and the last one is what Guillaum alluded to, Guillaum. We've invested in water treatment plants. And those plants are all of our plants. We've got a plant in Kisumu, we've got one in Nairobi, we've got one in Nyeri. Just to give context, we've got 5 in Kenya. So we've invested a lot in post-production water treatment. But that journey is sort of in the moment. We are also investing a lot in ensuring that we're using water more efficiently. Internally, we've got a measure that ensures we have better water usage ratio every year on year to become more effective with water. And very ambitiously, we've made it our goal to replenish 100% of the water we use by 2030. So very ambitiously, we say we're going to go into partnership with people who replenish upstream. We're going to go very ambitious on efficiency in plant so that we can face the world and the communities within which we operate to see we replenish 100% of the water. We've partnered with companies in Kenya, like Nature Kenya, to do reforestation. We've also partnered with communities, especially area, those who understand in the rift, to provide communities with water within that factory. So that in a nutshell is who Coca-Cola is, but also what I would want you more to appreciate is the evolution of water, because that's where the problem is. The evolution of water from having lots of water, quantity and good quality, to going diminishing in quantity and quality as well. So that's the comment I would make now, Guillaum. I would want to introduce and invite Engineer Mary Wainaina to make her comments.
Thank you all, and welcome to Kenya, Karibu, for the newcomers. It's a lovely country. I would like to talk about water from a business perspective, because that's how we should view water. We commonly look at water as a good, a social good, but I believe that's where we make the first mistake, because the moment we look at water and sanitation as a social good, we don't give the importance that is required in maintaining or supplying such a resource, right? So we expect that the forces of nature will cooperate with us. However, if we put the business perspective into the water and sanitation, then we start moving, we start making decisions. And from this perspective, I would now like us to focus on how we are doing it as the ministry and as the government. The first thing we did as a ministry, we know that Kenya has the national government and the 47 county governments, right? And water becomes a concurrent function between the two levels of government. So what we have decided we did something called, we created a document called the National Water Sector Investment Plan, Investment and Financing Plan. So this one it incorporates all the requirements per county and also from the national government's perspective. And when we did that, we realized that for us to achieve the SDG for the year 2030, we require an additional 652 billion Kenya shillings, which would be over and above what the government currently can supply, can avail to the sector. The sector currently gets about 500 billion Kenya shillings. So now we start talking business. We need 652 billion Kenya shillings, which cannot be possibly be raised through our normal concessional financing. So how do we then ensure that we reach our SDG, both for water and for sanitation? The talk of PPP now became very alive, that for sure we have no alternative but to start engaging on PPP financing. Now on PPP financing, we targeted the bulk water supplies, the sewerage and sewerage, let me say sewerage, so that we understand it's the conventional sewerage system. Employ a bit of technology so that we do a bit of saving. We require acres and acreage of land to do a normal conventional sewerage system. But now we are planning as a government to employ new technology so that we only do maybe a half acre to treat the sewer that Nairobi emits. So continuously, we also looked at the PPP model and also the commercial financing, the infrastructure bonds, to incorporate that as part of the financing mechanism. Over and above that, our colleague there from the French, from AFD, I believe, also talked about the non-revenue. Non-revenue is a real issue, you know. So when we did the analysis, we saw that we are losing close to 70 billion. And it's some money that we can recoup if we employ technology, if we employ operational efficiency, if we put the correct tariffs in place, this is some money that can be recouped and ring-fenced back to the sector for development. So that is basically it. I would like to go more into details, but I believe as we continue discussing on this aspect, I'll be able to shed light where is needed. But I would also like to talk about the open defecation, the OD, is something here in Kenya, right? We have 13 counties who are not yet open defecation free. And for them, we employ either behavior change, infrastructure, or community-led total sanitation consultancy services and trainings, right? So that we have that behavior change. We target actually by the year 2030, we'll be doing very well on OD also. I'm glad that this gathering has teams from, I've had technologies in smart metering, I've heard about sanitation development, yeah, right? So I believe this is the right discussion, the right group, and we can really progress the discussion towards achieving this agenda. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Marie. I think that we can start to introduce the panelists.
Thank you very much. I'm Luis Blanco from Alma Water Solutions. But please let me start by thanking the European Union delegation for giving us this extraordinary opportunity for sharing our experience from doing business in Kenya. As a short company introduction, Alma Water Solution is a global company that develops unconventional water solution for both municipal and industrial sectors. Our strategy involves alliances with local partners to share the best opportunities and to create synergies. That's why we set up one of our platforms in Africa, Richwood in Egypt, and we expect to open a new one to cover the sub-Saharan African countries. We are currently developing a project in Mombasa County under a PPP scheme. It's a seawater desalination project with a total capacity of 100,000 cubic meters a day and an expected total investment of almost $200 million US. We will directly invest $50 million as an equity capital contribution. And has been already underlined, Kenya faces a serious challenge with regard to water services, and unfortunately is not able to meet the demand from its increasing population, industrial development, greater needs for agriculture in rural areas, and the rapidly growing of urban settlements. The county of Mombasa supplies less than 40% of the required water for both domestic and industrial use. And most residents rely on borehole water that frequently is heavily contaminated and consequently is unsafe for consumption and domestic use. Sorry. Desalination of seawater is considered a sustainable intervention to diminish the acute water shortages in the county and to complement water supply in the coast region. We, as private partner, are responsible for the mobilization of finance through a mix of debt and equity. And its part, the public partner shall commit to providing the necessary guarantees to cover payments and compensation in accordance with the common practice and also with the water purchase agreement initialized in September 2019. In Alma Water, we are committed to supporting the public entities in their effort to eradicate water scarcity, water contamination, and lack of treatment, as well as the irregular distribution of water resources, as stated in the SDG 6 of the Agenda 2030. Furthermore, the non-achievement of the SDG 6 could be a barrier to meet the whole of the Sustainable Development Goals, as recently expressed by the United Nations, and also for His Excellency President Ruto in his maiden speech to the General Assembly. In March 2022, we have the occasion to attend the World Water Forum in Dakar. The Dakar Declaration expressed the stakeholders' concern about the funding gap for investment needed to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 6, and call up the international community to ensure adequate financing by, among others, encouraging innovative financing mechanism and private sector investment in water and sanitation. Let me finish by sharing with you our concerns about the risk of failure of the aforementioned public-private partnership. Unfortunately, we frequently find that substantial public funds has been allocated to projects being considered afterwards not bankable by potential bidders and financial institutions. To prevent the recurrence of similar situations, we expect the government institutions, the multilateral agencies, and the DFIs to support the local institution in building capacities for the concerned local developers and contracting authorities to endorse sound feasibility studies, to assure the transparency and fairness of the procurement process with the financial, technical, and legal sustained by an adequate transaction advisory, to ensure the sustainability of the project with an accurate social and environmental impact assessment. And finally, to guarantee a consistent and realistic risk allocation, which is crucial for the long-term success of the PPP projects, but not forgetting that it should be supported by a clear enforceability of rights by means of a national government support mechanism. We therefore believe that unconditional support of the Kenyan government and the European Union and their financial institutions should be imperative. And the access to private sector capital, technology, and expertise will definitively boost economic growth and social welfare while reducing social and gender inequalities. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luis. It was very, very interesting. I think that it's going to raise many questions, but I suggest that we move on to, we give the floor to Rui, and then we will deal with the Q&A at the end of the presentation of the panelists. Okay? So, if you want to...
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rui Fernandes. I'm responsible for African markets for a Portuguese company called All These Sanitary Systems. It's reaching its 69th anniversary today in a week. All is a South European leader for flushing cisterns, flushing mechanisms, and we are manufacturers for the biggest brands known in the sanitary ware business. We are present in more than 90 countries around the world, and we are proud to be here in the market already with one project in Mombasa and two already here in Nairobi. Our slogan is inspired by water. So, as you may know, water is one of the vital elements for life existence. 97% of our water is in ocean, so it's salty. 3% of this water is fresh water. So even like this, we think it's a lot. 2% of this fresh water is present in the glaciers, and less than 1%, and it's decreasing this number, it's present in rivers, lakes, and so on. So we, as humans, think and act as it is an unlimited resource. We just open the tap and we let it open because we think that it's unlimited. But let me tell you, you may have heard about Day Zero problematic. In Cape Town in South Africa, in 2018, there was a water shortage that made them, so they were forced to close their taps, and the water was rationalized, okay? There are other cities that are reaching this Day Zero. And for example, neighbors here in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, faced a problem roughly 2 weeks last December. So they were, due to a drought, they were without water in their taps. So, okay, we are in a business forum. We're not here to talk about problems. We are here to address solutions to these problems. And for example, using seawater, like we have some examples here of water desalination, using rainwater when possible, also, for example, for flushing the toilet, will allow us to have more fresh water available for other sources. Also, gray water. I don't know if you have heard about gray water. It's when we wash our hands, this water goes down the flush in the wash basin, and it could be reused to flush the toilet. So these are solutions that we are at OLI are developing solutions to allow us to use water more efficiently. So other solutions, for example, this project we have in Mombasa, it's a shopping center called City Mall. And what they're using is it's a cistern with 2 inlet valves that allows them to use the water from the main to flush, but also to use rain or seawater. So it's 2 systems in one that allow them to save 50% of their water. Other solutions are, and let's talk about us as individuals. Do we think how we spend our water in our house? Do we as businessmen and women think about the way we use the water in our companies? And also governments, besides investing and thinking about other sources, are we thinking about how efficiently we are using this resource in our buildings? So these are some things that we have to address, and OLI has solutions for that. So more than thinking about what we can do about to change the world. So alone I cannot save the world, but if I do some little bit, and if you all do your part, we will be closer to achieve this. So there are plenty of opportunities addressing water efficiency along the governments, business investors, and homeowners to optimize the water consumption, reducing costs that will also grant the future for our children and upcoming generations. Let us all think in water as future, and let us all be inspired by water. Thank you so much.
So good morning, my name is Arno Brunel. I'm working for CityTaps. We are a French company with a head office in Paris, and we have also an office here in Nairobi. We are supporting the water supply providers in getting more efficient and ultimately being stronger financially. So as mentioned by the representative of the Ministry of Water, it's going to be very complicated to reach the 2030 SDG goal. And one of the ratio that I'm always looking at is the percentage of people living in urban areas which do have access to tap water, to running water. And fortunately, in Kenya, this number is going down. The reason is that the population in the cities is growing faster than the water supply providers can extend the network. The reason is that they have financial difficulties to both maintain the existing network and extend the network to supply water to the new population coming into the city. So we are developing technologies, and we are doing some capacity building to help the water supply providers improve that. I'm going to give you two examples. The first one is what we call the meter to cash process. Meter to cash process is that the water supply providers each month, they have to send meter readers to each household to read the water meter, issue a bill, and then collect the cash. It looks simple when it's said like that, but it's a complicated process. You need to run after each single bill, each bill being very small. But the consequence of this process that is quite difficult is that a lot of utilities, water supply providers, have very huge customer receivable. Sometimes it's 6 months customer receivables, 9 months customer receivables. There are two consequences. First of all, they have a cash flow issue. They cannot pay for the salaries. There are some water supply providers that are paying salaries with 3 months delay. How can you keep your staff motivated with these kind of conditions? The second consequence is that the creditworthiness score of these utilities is terrible. There is the regulator, WASREB, which is making a very good benchmark report on a yearly basis, and you can see that a lot of utilities cannot go to a commercial bank and get a loan because their creditworthiness is so bad. So what we are doing is we provide, for example, pay-as-you-go project. It's kind of prepaid meters, if you want, where end users are going to make top-ups. It can be very small top-up with M-Pesa, 100 shilling, for example. As long as your account, your water account, is positive, then the system automatically opens water access. When you consume water, we debit some money from your account. When it reaches zero, it automatically disconnects the end user. Of course, we send notification to the end users, and we make sure that they can always be reconnected. The benefit of this for a utility is that they get the cash in advance, and this is dramatically changing their financial situation. Then they can start paying their salaries, then they can have a better score for creditworthiness. So today we have two projects, one in Malindi, one in Bomet, with 1,000 households so far connected, and that to be extended. These are the biggest smart metering projects in Kenya, and but we can definitely grow. Kenya is easy market for us in this because the population already is familiar with mobile money. That makes it very easy, and people already have this kind of prepaid system for electricity, so it's easy to adopt. Another type of solution we provide is to reduce non-revenue water. As you mentioned, non-revenue water is huge. A lot of utilities lose close to 40% of the water they extract from the natural resource, either from the underground aquifer or from the lakes and rivers. If you lose 40% of the water, it has three consequences. First, a financial consequence. You are wasting revenue. Second consequence is you are damaging the environment because you are pumping water that is just spoiled and put back into the underground after being treated. And sometimes you need to add chemicals for nothing. And the third consequence is that if you need to pump the water in the system, it requires energy. We all talk about climate change. If you reduce your water loss by 40%, you reduce your energy consumption by 40%. So this is things that we help the water supply with. We have, for example, some solutions with satellite image analyzers, where the radar in the satellite can detect underground leaks down to a depth of 6 meters by measuring the moisture in the ground. And we provide this kind of information to the utility so that they can send staff, they can dispatch a technical team to directly repair the leaks. And we have all sorts of also different solutions to help the team be more efficient in this kind of non-revenue water projects. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. We really help the utilities become more efficient, operating more efficient, so that they can be stronger financially and at the end of the day, provide water to more people. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Arnaud. When we have prepared this panel, you mentioned the specific setup of the financing for BOMET. I think that's something that is also interesting, that if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, as we were talking about, the financial is critical. And so we try to provide the possibility to attract the commercial finance into this kind of project. The project in BOMET is a very good example. There is a private investor, Untapped, who bought the technology for the utility, and they signed a leasing contract over a period of 15 months with the water supply provider. Why they accepted to do that for a utility which is not bankable? If you look at the creditworthiness score, it's terrible. They did that because when the end users make top up, 100 shilling, 200 shilling, etc., all these top-ups go to an escrow account. At the end of the month, there is a split in the escrow account between what goes to the investor to repay the installments and what goes back to the utility. So with this kind of scheme, we can really de-risk the investment from the investor. So today, this kind of scheme has been used to finance purely the PEGO system, but we could include inside this kind of investment, pipe extension or other things. And this is really giving credibility to private investors to come and invest in the water sector.
Okay, thank you very much, Arnaud. So I think that now it's time for us to introduce Ahmed and his company. Very pleased to have you, Ahmed.
Pleasure. Good morning, everybody. Oh, again, we have this problem of sound. Is that okay now? You hear me? There's a bit of noise. Anyway, there was supposed to be a presentation, but I heard there is no clicker here, so no need for the slides when there is no clicker, because it would be very difficult to keep asking next slide. So it was a bit of misarrangements here. Apologies for this. Otherwise, you would have really seen what I'm speaking about. This is Ahmed Baheshti, the co-founder CEO of Boreal Light. What we are doing is manufacturing solar water desalination systems for off-grid communities. So what does that mean in practice? Probably, especially in this market, you are very much familiar with the word desalination system. That's clear. But then it comes actually the title of my presentation was When Sun Meets Water. So it would be too difficult. There is a clicker here. Wow, you see the German style. Thanks to GIZ, there is a difference indeed in management. So I'm proud of it. Thank you so much, Mr. Sandid. So until that one comes, that you see what I'm saying in reality, the purpose behind having this slide was you see what I'm speaking about. So we established the work in Germany, in Berlin, we manufacture. And then what we are now doing is delivering drinking, irrigation, fish farm, and sanitation water to communities struggling with their access to water and electricity. That's why it says here, when sun meets water. I don't want to speak about, too much of necessary just what the company does. Thank you so much. Appreciating, for this great service. Thank you. But I wanted to speak a bit, wider of the topic, because if we just speak about the sectors we are producing machine, delivering services, one thing. Now we are speaking about the country. We are speaking about East Africa, and in a greater way, we are speaking about the Earth, or beloved Earth. And we keep speaking about climate change. So when we speak about climate change, we always hear two main terms, mitigation, adaptation. And the trick is, just for you do not know about mitigation, adaptation, I come to it, but there is a reason. It's not a university lecture I'm giving. I'm saying that there is a reason behind. I'm highlighting it for doing business in Kenya. This is a chicken farm, a classical, traditional poultry farm. We got used to it in the world, isn't it? Remember chicken farm, and then see this picture, duck farm. I'm in a water panel in Kenya, speaking about solar water desalination. I'm showing chicken and ducks. Why? And I'm speaking about climate change. Chicken is the mitigation, which we can do things to reduce carbon emission at the chicken business, poultry. Duck is the adaptation. When sea rise happens, we need some poultries deal with water, being able to live in a wetlands. That's why in several of the IPCC reports or etc., ducks are the solutions for adaptation to climate change. Keep this example in mind. I come to my actually presentation. This was just at the base of my discussion. We started our work, now I go very fast. We started our work dealing with this canister and the bucket. The cost of this non-treated water in a market like Kenya for 1,000 liter goes for $10 for 1,000 liter. I'm paying in Berlin like $3 for a perfect drinking water from the tap. And these people are paying $10. And in the dry season, it goes even, we recorded 6 times higher. And the problem is not just drinking, it's the irrigation. Look at this picture. The boreholes that they were drinkable, the boreholes that were doing the irrigation, they turned saline. So how much of farms you lost at Lamu? Lamu were delivering crops, fruits to all Kenya. Now many of the farms gone because of salt intrusion in the boreholes. We came up with our work, solar water desalination system with 3 characteristics, running directly on solar energy, no battery, no diesel, nothing, being simple. Remember, being simple is important. If you want to work on an adaptation side, in such a countries, not just necessarily Kenya, if you want to do a business, especially for those who want to do a business here, when you deal with technology, it should be simple. You can't bring a rocket science technology to a village, to a remote area and expecting them to deal with. And then being affordable. So producing 1,000 liter of this quality of water from Mombasa, let's say from the ocean, I'm giving the worst case scenario, cost for us, the production costs 50 cents. I'm not speaking about large scale desalination, small scale desalination. Such a cost is very extremely competitive. And the maintenance and a screwdriver and a wrench, more than enough for minimum 80% of the maintenance. Just giving you a few pictures, a complete off-grid campus at the suburb of Dar es Salaam, now receiving the entire campus. You see all these big buildings receiving their water from one machine we installed there. Just for your information, 4,000 people are living in this campus, completely off-grid, receiving their water from these systems. And affordable, remotest part of for your Kenyans. I've been in part of Kenya, most of you haven't been there. In those places, if water is not affordable, people cannot have access to it. So we sell 20 liter of this quality of water in these places for 10 shilling. So the same quality that you may have it anywhere else. So we sell it at 10 shilling and it's a business and it's still a profitable business. We are not an NGO. We even don't like the act of NGOs, the act of charities. It's a social business. And then simple. You remember I said simple. Look at the faces of our operators, the ones in white t-shirts. Isn't it interesting? They are running a desalination system. This picture, it's at Nungwi, the tip of Zanzibar, the Ungoja in Zanzibar. They go to school in day, they come after day, they run an industrial machine selling water to the neighborhood in Nungwi. If your work is not simple, you can't survive in the water sector of this, in this decentralized water sector. And then we go to farming. These simple vertical farms, we have installed all across Kenya. They receive the excess of water the machine produces, creating additional income to people. And the wastewater of the machine goes for fish farms. These are the fish farms. Just last week, we opened the biggest fish farm of Turkana at Lodwar Hospital with 200 cubic meter fish tank. And this is Manazi Moja Hospital, the biggest hospital in Zanzibar, receiving the entire water from that solar array you see powered, and then from the machine we installed that. We just came from a project at Lodwar. So you see this is in Kakuma camp, and Kakuma camp now, this rounds of greenhouses you see there is for World Food Program, and we delivered this setup there to World Food Program, delivering drinking, you see the drinking side after processing, drinking, irrigation, and saline water farming. Now we have in our process, stage by stage, up to 200 hectares of land going for saline water farming in Kakuma, in Calabar, where the most neediest ones are right at there. This is the first sprout of our saline water farming. Every desalination system, our colleagues knows it better. Every desalination system has wastewater, isn't it? You produce drinking and the waste goes to wastewater. What to do with the wastewater? Either pumping it back to the ocean or putting it into soak pits. We are growing saline tolerance siliconia from the wastewater of our machines. So extremely circular economy, not wasting anything plus the fish tanks. I'm done. We are Kenyan. We are proudly not just producing in Berlin. We are now having assembly hall in Nairobi. It's impossible if we wanted to do everything from Berlin. We are now from the Nairobi office. We cover from Somaliland down to Madagascar. It's all arranged, managed, and installed by the Nairobi office. We hope we can bring some solutions to the whole challenge of water sector in East Africa. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Hamed. It was a very dynamic presentation, very exciting. So I think it will raise many questions. I'm very happy with that. And leave the floor to Elia for the last presentation.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm from Iritech. I have also a presentation, but they asked me to revise, then I have only one slide. So I will use it to drive. We heard about, I'm the last panelist between the companies, the private company. So I have the occasion to use a lot of words my colleagues mentioned. So part of the solution for sure, we heard about different approach. We are in different sector in the same area, water. We are more focused on irrigation, but we work also in water distribution and mining sector. It's very important to remember availability, quality of water, regeneration. Water is a renewable resources, but in which scale time? This is very important because we are thinking about is renewable, but we have to consider in which scale time. And sometimes the scale time change the renewability based on human aspect, so on human scale. Okay, so I'm starting speaking more about our business and our approach, and then I will hope to share more with you and with the panelists. Water, it's agriculture is using the highest amount of water globally. Up to 70%. So it's very important be part of the solution using the water in the efficient way in agriculture. The impact will be very important globally. And drip irrigation is for sure part of solution. Drip irrigation is a micro irrigation techniques. That means that we use a low flow rate, low volume of water, more constantly and more frequently, and we can also use fertilization mixed with water. So we speak about fertigation approach. So we save also fertilizers, and we know that fertilizer in the last 2 years we saw an increase of the price based on raw materials increase. So it's very important on the business side, on the business view approach, but also on the renewable and resources aim to save it. Using a drip irrigation and micro irrigation systems, we are not only saving water or saving fertilizers, but we know also we save energy, because drip irrigation and micro irrigation work at more or less more than 100% energy use of other irrigation methods like sprinkler or flood irrigation. And then also pesticides. Part of the inputs of agriculture is pesticides, and using drip irrigation and micro irrigation techniques, we are saving also, we are preventing maladies and pesticides uses. So our company was founded in 1974, and it's a global company. Now we are present in more than 100 countries, with around, now we are opening another branch, but 16 branch globally, and more than 900 employees. We work in agriculture, turf, and water distribution sector, and also mining sector is part of our business. For agriculture, we offer a complete smart precision irrigation solution that is based on constant innovation. We have around 47 patents for our products. Now we have on the PPP view, we have an innovation. We have two big project financed by UE, with the aim of one is to use also water waste resources, so water waste reuse. That is a big thematic, very important for agriculture, because for agriculture we don't need drinkable water for irrigation. We can use also dirty water, but we have to choose the right product for it. Then we are developing and studying new product on ultra low drip irrigation. Drip irrigation, it's already a micro irrigation techniques, but we are now developing a new area, we can say, of micro irrigation, that is the ultra low drip irrigation. Another technique that is very important, and very important not only for the aim of manage of water in agriculture sector, but also for business balance. It's sub-irrigation techniques. Sub-irrigation is a long, we develop it, we have product from since 20 years ago, but we are now focusing more on sub-irrigation, because it also is part of the solution for fertilizer and water efficiency. Very important also on this view is to invest in technologies. Technologies means also smart irrigation, using controller, using sensor. We are developing a new solution that is using a complex sensor network between soil, plant, and environment, atmosphere in general, climate. So this is very important also to be more efficient. Recycling plastic is part of our business. We produce with plastic, but also we recycle plastic. We know that drip irrigation require plastic for its use, but some product we can also produce with recycled plastic. Okay. And another topic very important for us is part of the recycling. We are rolling a project that is we call Greenfield in Italy and in Mexico. Greenfield allow us to collect the drip irrigation at the end of the season, so giving a cash in hands to the farmers. that is now part of the recycle project, and then we reuse it for our production. This is very important in European market and now in Mexico, but we aim to expand it globally. And smart plastic is also part of our research and development aim. Smart plastic mean finding the right plastic for the right product, not using a polymer approach that is not focused on the project or on the product. And this could also improve the efficiency on production. We have an internal academy that is for us part of the solution, means transfer of knowledge globally. As we are working in more than 100 countries globally, this academy is not useful only for retailers or distributor, but we use it also for international cooperation market beneficiary. And also, for example, now we have a program financed by Italian Cooperation Agency in Senegal. As AgriLab, we have another brand. We transfer the knowledge in developing countries. This is very important because we are not only speaking to farmers, but we are speaking also to who will design the systems locally, and who will do the maintenance. Okay, so we transfer knowledge on this sense to be sure that efficiency will be part of all the professionists are working in the sector. And we are member of Global Compact. And the last year we were awarded as SDG Global Pioneer for sustainable water management. So this is for the presentation, and I ask to more interaction between us now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elia. Honestly, I'm very happy with your presentation because it's all the patents that you have, all the innovation, things that it give us hope for the future. When we are in the water sector, when you are in the water sector, you can struggle on a day-to-day basis, but with all the innovations that you bring, I'm sure that future will be easier. So yes, let's start the Q&A session. Perhaps John, you could start with the first question. Then, of course, the panelists, if you have questions, do not hesitate. And after we give the floor to the audience.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, panelists, for articulating the issue of water. Picking the sentiment from your presentation is we're doing work for water, but we probably are not doing it as fast as the problem is approaching us. And the question is, if that trend continues, day zero will come to us. What must we do to avoid day zero? Is it change tact? Is it change speed? Or what must we do? And I would say the answer is, yeah, just as you think. It's not directed, it's just directed to the panel.
I think I'll go first, and to really appreciate the feedback and what I've had today. It's like seeing a dream flow, the issues of energy efficiency, water utilization efficiency, risks of failures of PPPs. I think that was a good session. Now, I would like to say that we need to change tactic. We need to talk more. We need to cooperate. We need to have a session where we say what we do and also implement it within a framework. The challenge comes in when now you are dealing with the government, because you have to live within an existing framework, right? So also it calls for speed from this end to ensure that we have the correct regulatory framework in place. We also have the correct laws and policies in place to be able to do this. And luckily for us, we have moved pretty fast. We have a very good regulatory framework. On PPP, the issue that would perhaps be where we are working on is to ensure that we have a PPP framework for the water sector, right? This one, because you see, water cannot be treated as roads or something like that. So this is what we are working on, and going forward, we'll do a lot of engagement as we develop this framework. And the framework will both address the issues of non-revenue water, as has been articulated, also development, efficiency in delivery, and also the issue of training, technical assistance for the agencies, for the contracting authorities. So this discussion perhaps has started today for the European team, but going forward, it needs to be pretty vibrant if we are to achieve the SDG. And I think from our end, we can commit as the ministry that we intend to engage more and to really have such platforms, not just for this meeting, but maybe in the next 3 months, to really have a very clear way forward on PPP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes, I believe that it's a very important question, because we have seen different approaches, whether water desalination, agriculture, irrigation that uses really a big amount of the water that we need. And all this needs to be addressed, in my opinion, in 3 different moments. So we need to act what we can do on the short run, what we can do at the medium run, and plan for the future. And plan for the future has to start from the government side with water education. So that is planning the future. This will change. It will take time. It cannot be from one day to the other. There are things that we can do currently, immediately, and there are things that we can address it in a more medium pace.
The point I can mention, I don't know, speed is one of that for sure. When the 0 days coming, I remember Cape Town, how was the situation there? But more than that, it's a base of understanding the water challenge. You know, now you do not have any landline in most of your villages, if any, telephone landline, I mean. All of them, they do have the cell phones. Why? Because a new technology came and there was no need to invest heavily on an infrastructure that cost a lot, billions. There was another technology without all the cabling and things. You could have access to telephone to the remotest part. Same example was the example of the chicken and ducks that I mentioned to you. When your discourse is changing, you should change your strategy. We can't keep the technology. We can't keep all the style of the work that 100 years ago we were doing the same. And now again, when we want to think about water, we are doing the very same. If I'm thinking somehow in this phase, I would say, differentiate between the infrastructure projects that are, for instance, in cities, in big communities, and then the other part doesn't need to invest billions of bringing centralized water to them. The decentralized water is that duck player in our game. Having the duck player, having a new technology, new way of thinking when the technology is available. You couldn't do this 30 years ago. Either you should depend the villagers to diesel, or there was no electricity. Now Solar energy is cheaper than diesel, so it could be everywhere available, helping them to have a water solution where none of the other infrastructures are there.
Just to complement what has been said. Okay. It's working okay. So I think time is something very critical. Of course, when you are in front of the obstacle, if you have not started running before, it's very difficult to jump. So it's better to start running before. And time is of the essence. I think today what is missing a bit in the water sector, there is, of course, education, but I see there is a huge trend now, and more people are conscious of the problems. When you talk about non-revenue water, any utility manager has this into its top 5 priorities. So this is clear. They all understand they have to tackle this issue. But to be a little bit provocative, I think it misses here in the environment the possibility for the managers to take risks, to try innovation and to fail if sometimes they fail. Today, they prefer just to wait to see if there will be a new technology and then to try it. And as you were mentioning, technology is moving fast. If you just wait for a better technology to arrive, you will never try anything. And we, as technology providers, we feel that there is this reluctance in taking risks because a lot of managers don't have incentive to go towards this zero. To better improvements. It's easier for them to do nothing sometimes than to take risk and sometimes failing. So I think my message would be give them some room to try and sometimes fail, but most of them will succeed.
Only to close it, I think we have to focus in different way between developing countries and continent, and we can say the other part of the world, because we are now still suffering the problems that came out after an efficient approach in different industries. Like in Europe, we have, or in other place, you can see a lot of pollution also in the field, in agriculture sector, that come from long time ago. Okay, we are paying now what we didn't manage well in the past. So very important, different approach also in politics for sure. We are more focused on, we can say, managing the resources and also trying to replace or restructure the soil, for example, and reducing pollution. Another approach that could be very interesting, and I think more interesting also in the business view, is using the highest and the more advanced technology already in developing countries. So developing countries and continents have the opportunity to use already a very efficient approach in use of water, use of fertilizer, use of any kind of inputs now. And this is a great opportunity for these countries because they could start producing a lot without having the environmental problem that will be paid for sure later. So this is very important, and we hope to be part of it. Every of our company it's part of the solution, and we are developing technologies for it. So sharing it with the developing countries, it's very important, and I think is one of the best way to face it. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis, do you want to?
I would like to say that this is not a simple problem, so it doesn't have a simple solution. No? So the solution is a very complex solution, but there are many resources. So the final solution has to be a blended, of the. Now I think that all of us, we are conscious about the scarcity of water. But there is a point very important also, that is the value of water. Now there are many professionals working about in this issue. What is the water value? Trying to find a value for the water. And I think that this is very important, because also, as you mentioned before, if you are looking the price here, the price of the water, we did a willingness to pay survey in Mombasa. I think that there was a massive independent survey, 1,300 interviews, domestic, public institutions, university, industry, tourism, very, very important. And the first concern is not price. The first concern is quality and quantity, because this is a dream for the people, to open the tap and to have a safe water. Because at the end of the day, as you say, they are spending a lot of money in water. And this is something that is called by some authors the poor penalty. So at the end of the day, they are paying more for the water than in other developed countries or cities. So you can find that now in Mombasa, the people are spending more in water than in Paris, London, or in my country, in Madrid. So this is something that is very important. For them, they say, okay, well, for sure, there is a part of a percentage that say, we want the water for free, but that happens everywhere. If you ask, well, there is a percentage that say, okay, I want the water for free. But after you have the court that is going for a price that they think that is affordable and also is a fair price, not to avoid this kind of power penalty that at the end of the day, poor people is spending more money in water than in the other places, developed places, or with more resources. So that's all.
Perhaps on my side, perhaps we can change the topic. And on my side, I would have a question to Louis and Helia. Helia, you mentioned that you have two ongoing PPP. I would like to know. I think that I heard that. Is it in Kenya or in Europe or anywhere else? And then I would like Louis to explain, to elaborate a bit more regarding your PPP in Mombasa, because I think that, I don't know if it's a pilot, but you're certainly very advanced regarding that topic. So it would be interesting for us to understand to whom are you going to sell the water? Are you going to sell it directly to the end user, to a utility, or will it work? To have a better understanding of the financing structure. Thank you.
The PPP we have are more in Europe and Latin America, focused on these two markets. But for sure, Europe, Mediterranean area, it's our core area for developing also, we can say, new technology. We are testing a majority in this area. That is also very representative. We come from Sicily, that is a dry island, and is an island. So was very important come from this place for this technology and this innovation, because we could test all the technology in we can say in extreme environment. And I want to attach me to the water value. I think it's very important this topic, and as we are hearing a lot now for carbon credit, carbon finance. I think it's very important between institution and in general citizen and company establishing a water finance approach that will involve everybody. I mean, from the single person to the company, and I think already some of the actors are doing it, but developing it in a PPP approach, it's very important. Creating like a carbon credit finance as water credit finance.
I prefer to start saying that PPP is not a magic solution. No? PPP is not a sample solution. PPP is difficult, and also we can say that it's a little bit sophisticated. So it's not simple. It needs a lot of resources, and it needs also this willingness for.
Perhaps we can, if there are questions in the audience, you have, yes?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rose Wangeshi. I'm a dentist by profession, and I'm sure many of you are wondering what a dentist is doing here. They should be busy fixing people's teeth. But I'll give you, I'll tell you why I'm here. Thank you so much, the panelists. I think this is a very fruitful discussion, so much insights, and I can tell you for sure, when I interact with my customers, I really, some of you are actually filling in the gaps, and I can see opportunities already. So I run a company, a private company. It's called Riverside Water Defluoridation Consultants. And why we came up with this, it's because we have a crisis, and it was informed by a study that was done in 2015 by the Ministry of Health. It's called Kenya National Oral Health Survey, which shown that actually 40% of children in the whole of Kenya have dental fluorosis. And we know that dental fluorosis is caused by high fluoride. Why did I give you that brief? It's because Kenyans are really expanding. I think we are doing very well, and we are building homes, and we are sinking boreholes, but the borehole water, no one really understands the quality. No one really moderates or looks at the quality of the water in these boreholes. And it's really creating a mess. I talk from a point of dentist because I'm a dentist, but I can tell you for sure there are other deleterious effects of having not safe water to our bodies, including kidney diseases and all other illnesses that we may know of. We realize that 70% of our bodies is actually water. And so when we discuss about water, it's really a really key component. I have two questions, one to the EU delegation and the other one to Madam Engineer, who I believe is representative of the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. And let me start with EU delegation. We have a lot of gaps and opportunities in Kenya in terms of water. I want to know, do you have Because I know in your mother countries, you have research and development departments. And that is where you come up with products. So when you come to Kenya, when you come to Africa, do some research to ensure that you actually meet the gaps that are on the ground. That is the first question to the EU delegation and to Ministry of Water and Sanitation. What are the efforts that are being done? Because now we need to shift from just having water for cooking and for drinking to actually having safe and quality water as a way of actually doing preventive medicine. Because we might actually now go again into a lot of investment in terms of curative for a simple thing that should have been done through, just having safe and quality water. Thank you very much.
So for the EU delegation, I'm not actually a EU delegation. I'm just representative for French Development Agency, so part of the EU. You have mentioned the fact that we do research to fill the gaps that Kenyan people are facing regarding fluoride. I don't think that on our side, French people, we don't do French Development Agency. We don't do research dedicated to that, but there are researches available on the market. I belong to the Water Development Partner Group with USAID, with several bilateral agencies. And I can tell you that this kind of research is with UNICEF. We had discussion with UNICEF, with USAID regarding this kind of issues. And yes, this research is and studies are available. So we are well aware about them. After, yes, it has to be treated case by case with private companies or with the public project that we have. But when we implement public project, it's on my side. Of course, that's something that is carefully monitored. But the issue that you mentioned, I think, is more in the northern part of Kenya. I don't want to say that it's not an issue, but I just want to be more specific. I know that in Turkana and all this area, it's a critical issue. And I met several, for instance, French companies that are very well aware about that, and that actually want to provide support and to bring technological solution to this area. After the question is more for the ministry, and it's how do you finance them and how do you implement this kind of project? Marie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. The question was very relevant to many of the EU investments in Kenya and East Africa, let's say. I just come from Lodwar, and the project I showed you on the screen, the 36 greenhouses, let me don't name which organization did it, but they installed it. They installed this huge investment, and they thought, okay, we do the greenhouses, we wait for the rain come, and we do rain harvest, and we irrigate in Turkana, in Kakuma, waiting for the rain, irrigating greenhouses. And you go there, 36 empty greenhouses, they just are a dust house. So things happen. This is a bad example, so now our system is delivering water there. But the good one, after COVID, COVID, many of your hospitals, they were in really problem. Why? Because hospitals, the biggest hospitals of Kenya, they didn't have drinking water to supply to patients. Can you imagine? So this was the challenge. So what we did, actually, Mr. Sandy, that helped us with the clicker, run a project that, okay, let's learn from the experience of what COVID brought to us. We had to fight it, and the way hospitals reacted to that. There was a study, I don't know how many pages, 50 pages, something, 50 pages of deep study. We studied 11 hospitals for GIZ. GIZ run this study. 11 hospitals in East Africa and their challenge of fighting COVID and how the hospitals should be sustainable. Out of that, and the electricity side of it, water, waste, plastic waste, everything, and the food in the hospital, good food. Then out of that research, we just did an opening at Lodwar Hospital, where there is one of our machine delivering drinking water, irrigation water, fish farm water, all in the hospital campus. Plastic recycling of the hospital, biogas to deliver gas to the canteen, and the kitchen is receiving fish and vegetables from the vertical farm and the fish tank. So there are studies and there are some bad experiences, but I believe the way that GIZ now approach this learning could be like a role model for many of the other similar type of projects.
Okay, on the issue of the groundwater is a real concern, as you have said. So the ministry has an institute, it's called the Regional Center for Groundwater. It's a newly established institution, mainly dealing with mapping of groundwater in Kenya and also on assessment of the water quality for the entire country. They have several projects that they have started in the North Rift region and also in some part of the central Kenya. So this regional center for groundwater also is part of an ongoing program being called Horn of Africa, also addressing or seeking to address the, let me call it preventive measures, putting in place preventive measures to ensure that we don't drill boreholes where really we shouldn't. So we are doing that within that regional center. Now, currently, the ministry is rolling out a program we are calling Water 10,000. Water 10,000 seeks to address these immediate needs, especially for the boreholes where we have very low quality water with high levels of fluoride, and also with where we are doing pumping actually. And what we'll be doing immediately, once it's rolled out, is actually to start treating these existing boreholes and also using solar. I liked the idea of solar water desalination, right? So these are technologies we need and we are planning to employ immediately, and it will be a countrywide affair. As I discussed in the morning, we got all the boreholes for the entire country that actually need to be dealt with, either by treatment of water or by changing of technology. So we are up and running. We are also looking for partnership in that area. The program, Water 10,000 program, is attracting about 300 billion Kenya shillings. So it will deal with the issues of drought also. Let me be brief on that. You'll see a lot of it as we roll it out. Thank you for the question. And on the issue of whether we do investigative, a needs analysis before these projects are taken up. I'll not talk about the past. I'll talk about the present and going forward. The ministry, together with the county governments, are working together to identify, prioritize, and implement projects. You realize in the first session of the Water Act, not the Water Act, but the Constitution, there was a lot of disjointed planning in the sector, and perhaps it may have contributed to a bit of to lack of a centralized planning. But currently, we are doing that together: the planning, the project identification, the prioritization, and implementation. And now we are looking at also the financing mechanism, looking for finances and investment together with the county governments. There, that goes it. I hope it addresses your concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Samuel Kinyanjui. I work with Water Kiosk Africa. We are doing the installation of solar water desalination. Mine is more of a concern, and wish that there were more government representatives from different sectors. We are talking about making water more accessible to more people in a sustainable way. But there is something that we cannot forget, and we have to discuss it at every given opportunity. And this is the issue of taxes. The amount of taxes and the number of those taxes in the water are very punitive to the consumers. And they are frustrating, demoralizing, and affecting businesses and companies that are working in that area. Just 2 weeks ago, a sector or a company in the Ministry of Water introduced taxes to also water vending, which is also now, creating another burden to the accessibility of this water. I think this is something that needs to be brought to the attention of every stakeholders, including the people in this room and also the government authorities. And the issue of excise tax on the very basic commodity of refilling water to those very rural communities. It's something that is very painful, very punitive, and we need to address it at every given opportunity. And this also goes to all the government stakeholders, those are here and those are not here, including the PS. Thank you very much.
Would you allow me to, because it's a very relevant to us. One of our financiers said if they finance a project, 4 million euro, before this new tax that you applied, the KRA applied. Now they said if we knew this tax would be applied, we'd never invest in Kenya. Because, my apologies, you are asking us as a social business who deliver the cheapest hygiene drinking water in Kenya to pay the same as Kringet. Isn't it funny? I'm selling water for 10 cents per 20 liter. KRA asked me to pay $1 tax per bottle. Can you believe it? $1 tax per bottle that I'm selling it for 10 shilling. It's this because of this. KRA already closed some of our water kiosks that are delivering water to the poorest of the poor in this country because we are not paying tax to KRA. Because we are not making, instead of being proportional, instead of being a percentage, there is a fixed tariff. Kringet should pay that. I should also pay that. Regardless of Kringet, you said you are selling 400 something shilling. I'm selling 10 shilling. Both of us paying the same. Where in the world this could be logical? This is a big challenge, and it's this repeated taxation on water, especially on decentralized water, I believe is the most blockage of further investment into the water sector in Kenya.
Good afternoon. I'm Gilbert from Hydro Group. We are in water and wastewater treatment. We have an access. Hello, you can hear me now? We have an access and quality project that we're doing in 5 counties right now. One of the counties is Isiolo. There's a village that has 600 people, and the groundwater is highly mineralized. But the goats, when they drink the water, their teeth come off. The cases that we get from there for kidney diseases are very high compared to any other area that you've seen in Kenya. But because the numbers are so small, 600 people, according to county planning and according to development partners, it doesn't give a critical mass for them to do a project over there or invest over there. So we did a CSR project whereby we donated a treatment unit to supply water to this community. But now for these to be sustainable, we're charging a few cents so that they can be able to have maintenance funds for this particular unit. And recently we've had problems with KRA because they want us to pay taxes on the water that we're giving back to this community. So it's a big issue. The option we have right now is basically to go take that unit from there and put it in storage, and we put them back to where they were before. Yeah, so it's one of the biggest issues that we have right now in terms of taxation for drinking water. We understand the genesis of the taxes as they were before, because it was considered that bottled water or treated water was a luxury, but we don't have quality drinking water for us to tax treated water. Thank you.
Let me talk to that issue so that we don't raise it again, and we can move on to maybe another concern. Now, the water sector is a regulated sector. I remember 2 years ago, a group of young men came to my office and said, no, listen, we have been told not to supply water unless we pay some certain amount of tax. And it was a very difficult period. It was actually during COVID, right? So I advised, and it's a similar advice that I shall issue to anyone who is facing that concern. The best way is to be regulated. When you are regulated within and by WASREB, then you come out of the category of taxpayers. You are no longer like private, like Kerriget, right? You work under the regulations and standards of WASREB. So that will definitely get you out of that. And we need to ensure, we have been telling, and we are actually going now to issue another notice to inform every Kenyan who is applying water as a private person to be regulated by WASREB, so that the management of your income, taxation, etc., is guided by the regulator, Water Sector Regulatory Board. And therefore, the issue of tax and water being a social good is addressed in that forum. That is the best way to do it. But then we have a lot of many operators who operate supply water, but outside the regulatory framework. So let us be within the regulatory framework, and we shall be able to now ensure that such things don't occur. I would advise you start the process immediately. The young men started the process. Now they are regulated as private water suppliers, right? So let us get into the regulation. Let us not fear the law. The law is there to protect, right? And to ensure that we access services as is required. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary, for this answer, very clear answer. Do you know if this process is long and painful and expensive, or because depending on the size of the company, it's affordable or not? So is it something that small companies, SMEs can afford or not? And so will it answer to Ahmed's concern?
It's not rigorous, actually. It has different classifications, right? The big suppliers, the small service providers, and the medium service providers. Yeah, and it does not matter whether you are doing it for the public or for the private. It's a very simple process, and very easy to go through it. Actually, I don't see any hindrance, and it will answer to these concerns that we have. So maybe we should also be very clear in our communications, really, to encourage our water service providers to be under the regulation. I think we should also communicate that. It could be an oversight on our part also. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. It's 12:35, so we can take a last question, and after we go to the conclusion with John. Because I see that at 1:45 there is a closing ceremony.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josephine. I come from South Rift, Nakuru County. In that area, there's a lot of need of water, even in schools. And also we've spoken about human beings. Why don't we think about our livestock like cows? In my community, people keep cows and goats and mostly cows. A place like Kajiado is also having many problems. We really need water, even in schools. My brother and my family, we tried digging water. We sank a borehole. And the other day, there is this authority, water authority, came and removed the electricity because we are using electricity. So we cannot get water. People are really crying. They are suffering. Our livestock needs water. So what I wanted to request, if the government comes, and also people have been digging water and they don't know where to take that water for taste. We taste using our taste. We don't have where to take that water because we get somebody to dig the hole there. They remove it. You see, if we get like you people, you people, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you so much. I'm so happy about you people coming with the issue of water. Water is life. Even the other day, I live in Langata here, and the other day a big snake came looking for water. You see, even animals, those ones, even rats, what they are animals, God created them. They need water also. So the issue of water is very, very important. And in Nakuru, the water table is very down. My neighbor, another neighbor across there, dug almost 300 feet. He didn't get water. He went to another area. Now, in such a case, how do you handle such cases where water is too far and people are suffering within that area, the community of that area? Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are under tight crunch for time. We actually are supposed to go to wrap up in 5 minutes. So allow us not to take any other question, not because we do not want to have the questions, but because we have overshot our time. Thank you very much, the panelists. Very insightful remarks, very insightful revelation of the work you're doing. And what I take from today is that the problem doesn't have a straight line solution. It's more complex than sometimes we would imagine. But it will take a lot of collaboration between the private sector. It will take a lot of collaboration from the government. But something that I will say that pricked my mind is it will also take a lot of thought change from individuals who use water, who see water going to waste and probably just look at it. But also the change of the thought that is not a social need. It's not a social goal. It's a business need that we need to drive that way. So allow me to have that as my closing remarks, and over to you, Guillaum, for yours, and we'll wrap up.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Honestly, I'm very pleased to have this panel with all of you. We saw that there are many innovations that could be brought by European companies. I see a lot of willingness, and I'm definitely think that there are many business opportunity for all these companies. We see that the trend on the ministry side is actually to develop all the big projects and to support the increase of water supply. We see that you can bring solution with the registration of company. You bring us, you answer directly and bring us a solution, a quick solution. So it's very helpful. Yeah. So I think that this panel was very insightful, as you said, John. I'm very happy to have had all this discussion with you. I let Mary perhaps bring the conclusion.
Thank you for according me that very singular honor of doing the conclusion. I would like, first of all, to really thank the participants, the group from the European fraternity. Thank you so much. Thank you for looking at us and really understanding our problems. You know, when the panelists were speaking, I felt like, I don't need to be here. You seem to know Kenya more than I really do, and the solutions that we need. So really, thank you, the panelists. Thank you for coming with the solutions to our many problems. And as you are going to see, and you will continue to witness, is that we have a structured way of dealing with the problems that we have in place, and we shall employ your solutions to whatever we embark on. So really, I'm grateful. It's going to be a very interesting space. I hope we continue this dialogue, perhaps, and I look forward to the next meeting with the European fraternity. Thank you very much.